player this week. Not a la Fleetwood Mac, breaking hearts and such, but what I mean is I got to play many different roles in this week's psychodramas. Just a quick recap for those of you who may have missed last week's video. A psychodrama is a method used in psychotherapy in which a client is able to reenact a scene from their childhood that feels incomplete, in that it still affects their thoughts, beliefs, or behaviors in the present. The goal of the psychodrama is to shift the emotion associated with the event in order to liberate the client from any limiting or harmful beliefs that they may have developed from the experience. In order to do this, however, you need actors to play your mother, your father, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your angry neighbor, or your ex-best friend. Enter Kendra. I quite enjoy acting, so overall this past week I had quite a bit of fun. I got to be a sad mom, an angry dad, another sad mom, an apathetic grandmother, a sassy, flirtatious stranger. It was quite exciting, but also quite tiring. It actually took way more out of me than I originally had anticipated. I had to take a nap one day at lunch. First of all, even though it is acting, when I was in the experience, I realized that what was happening was something that did actually happen to the person who was standing in front of me. So it made it all a little bit more real and heavy. Second of all, these were not exactly like peachy keen scenarios. The things in our lives that happen that create limiting beliefs about ourselves and the world around us are not usually happy times spent with loving people. It was quite heavy subject matter, so there was lots of yelling and screaming and blaming and shaming, and I was not usually a very likable character. I was a pretty crappy person in almost all of the scenarios. Finally, the purpose of actually being an actor is to trigger the client. And by trigger the client, I mean blow the lid off of all of the emotions that they have been stuffing down inside of them for all of the years as a result of this event. And that tended to look like a lot of rage and a lot of tears, which in life are generally things that I tend to avoid. However, this week it was my job to provoke them. Lots of fun, really exhausting. My favorite thing about the whole experience was that I actually got to test my counselor intuition. There is a really delicate balance between making sure that you push the client far enough that they get really into their emotion and they express what they need to, but also ensuring that you don't take them past a limit where they shut down or check out. You want to poke and poke and poke and poke until they break and they come back at you with enough force that you feel that you have shifted something enough that you can then pull back and actually let that client be heard. It's kind of like a dance back and forth between the client and the player, because each client that I worked with this week had a different limit, they had a different breaking point, and they had a different way of actually expressing the emotion that needed to come out. Regardless, it was a really cool test to try to intuit what each of the clients needed from my particular character. There was also a counselor as well as an instructor up there with us to help guide the players and let them know when to push and when to pull back. However, I think I was getting pretty good at it on my own. Next week I won't have to worry about it, however, because I am not going to be a player. I'm just going to be preparing for and actually presenting my own psychodrama. I'm very nervous. A little bit excited, but mostly nervous. That's all I have for you today for a little lesson with a touch of insight. I will see you next week. Hopefully I am not an emotional wreck, but I make no promises. Have a good week.